Prepare your brains! Welcome to Books in Season. This is the series where I review the books that I've read in the last few months. If you want to, you can check out the 2 videos that I've made so far. They'll be in the description down below. So my first book is The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. So this is a very popular story. You've for sure heard it at some point. My personal favorite is from Wishbone. Honestly, that's always the first thing that I think about when I think of this story. You're not following Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde throughout the story, which is honestly what I was expecting in the beginning. You actually follow a lawyer, and I think I didn't love this story, and I think a big part of it is actually related to that. The basic plot of this is awesome. It's such a cool story. It's a really interesting way of exploring our own sense of ego and how we can be way too driven to complete certain projects. But I just wish we would have seen that more. The reality is you're following someone else and he's trying to discover who Mr. Hyde is. I was not expecting like a whodunit, and in this case it's kind of silly because we already know this. Like, if you've seen this story at all, you know the actual plot, so you know how this ends. I'm honestly pretty okay with that usually. I have the unpopular opinion that I actually prefer watching the movie first and then reading the book. But in this case, it just felt like it wasn't as detailed as I was hoping it to be. I thought it was going to be first person from like his experience, so I wanted to know like more in detail, but we only really get that towards the end. So I'm a little on the fence about this. I found the language didn't help me out much either. It felt a little bit like reading like an official document about the events more than the story, which is fine, but it's just overall, it just wasn't exactly what I was hoping for, which is okay. You know, a book doesn't have to be what I want it to be, but I was kind of left feeling a little meh about it. But I know lots of people really love it, so if you do love it, please let me know why you really love it in the comments. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying it's not as great as I wanted it to be. The second book that I read in the last few months is one that I've read before. It's the first in the series of A Series of Unfortunate Events, so Bad Beginning, by Lemony Snicket. This is my all-time favorite book series. I'm rereading it because honestly I think I'm technically up to like book 7 or 8, and I never actually finished it. But I've been reading it for so long that I kind of forgot, also because I want to prep for that new Netflix series that I'm really pumped about. So since this is the first book in the series, we essentially get the setup to everything that will happen in the future. We meet the orphans, we meet Olaf, we meet our narrator. Everything in this book kind of sums up the relationships that you'll have in the next ones as well. So the relationships between the adults and the children, and how essentially adults are just not taking them seriously in the slightest. It's something that will be developed even further later on, which I love. You get right into it. I love these books because they're so well written. They're really written intelligently. The language is brilliant. There's awesome references to things, and it explains things without feeling like it's dumbing it down. I love that also the book is trying to like persuade you to not read it because it's really sad, and it's true, it's actually very tragic, the events that happen in this story. But the narrator is one of my favorite parts because he is an active role in the story, which I think is cool, but he's not actually like part of the story itself, at least not now. You can just tell that he's still a character, which I think is really fun. I think it's a really fun story for everyone, in every age really, but particularly for kids because it really values how everyone has their own set of talents or a skill that they might have, and that everyone can help out and have a purpose. You know, one of the characters is a baby and yet she still has an active role. I think it's really cool that the story really values everyone for whatever they can bring to the table. I love these characters, they're so fun to read. So fun to hate also, some of them. It's really awesome seeing their journey. So I will be reading the other ones in the next few months, and I'm super excited because honestly it's just really a fun read. And my last book is One Bloody Thing After Another by Joey Comeau, which is my Canadian book. So woo! Something that's pretty interesting about this book is every chapter or so you kind of switch your perspective. So you're at the beginning especially, you feel like you're following completely different stories that happen to be in the same book. But it's cool because the further you get along in the book, the more you see that those stories are actually connected. This is more of a horror novel, honestly. It can be a little spooky, which was great for me because of the time that I was reading it. It was very Halloween-y. The characters were particularly interesting because essentially, as much as it was more of a scary kind of atmosphere, it was character-driven. You really get to know these characters well, and I love that in a story. Like, I love meeting people. I love knowing more about people and feel like you knew their background and what led them to become what they are today. It kind of deals with ideas of loss and how you deal with loss and how do you kind of grow up, because we follow younger people and older people, and you can kind of see how they are growing up differently and how they're growing up similarly as well. An added bonus to this book that's really cool, there's like a secret message. Certain pages have like one word, otherwise the page is blank, but there's like one word just written on the bottom. While you're reading it, you kind of forget about that because it takes several pages between each word, but then at the end I kind of went back and read what it said all throughout, and it was really awesome. I love cool details like that, like just structurally in your book, if you can include cool little details that will make your book even more memorable. I find this one did that for me. So those are the books I've read. If you guys have read any of them, please let me know what you thought in the comments. I'd love this for being kind of a conversation about books. That's like one of my favorite things ever. Also, I'm always up for new book suggestions, so if you have any books that you've loved recently, let me know. It might be in my next one. If you haven't already, you can check out our last video by clicking right here. It's us carving pumpkins, so if you're still in the spooky mood, it's a good choice. Also, if you want, you can click here and you'll be able to go to my Books and Seasons videos. So if you like this video, you can click like, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching!